You know, the little graph on the right, of course, is something that we're all very aware of in IBM, that in fact, even if you take English as a first language and English as a second language, there's still only 14% of the world that speaks English, so there's the other 86% that we're very aware of. When we translate, let me talk a little bit about translation of products. When we translate a product, we think, when we support a language, we think of two ways of supporting a product. One is basic support, which means that you ought to be able to enter information using that product, store and retrieve, display your data, etc. And that's one kind of support, and that's the support. And if you go to the, I'm sorry, I'm on the next chart. I apologize. One more. Okay, right here. The blue part is what I mean by basic language support, and then the green part is where you have to actually translate the user interface of the product into many different languages. What you'll find is that in our products, we have basic language support for usually about 65 languages. And then in terms of translation, we'll translate anywhere from 9 to 30 languages, depending upon the product, where we think it's being used, etc. And you can see the 9 languages right there. It says highest priority. Those are the 9 languages that we always do. And then there's additional languages. You know, I think this is similar to the 6 UN languages. We have 9 that we consider in our top rung. And just to take, I just went to one of our websites and I said, take our database product, take our database enterprise product. You can see that we support about 60 languages down at the bottom there. We translate to about 25 different languages for that particular product. And this is just an example of a product at IBM. Now, I want to talk about more than products, though. You know, we also do a work that is not related to, you know, making money. This is, you know, we care a lot about skills, as I mentioned before, skills with universities. IBM MentorPlace is if you go to the next chart, go one more. If you go to if you look at this chart, IBM MentorPlace is a program that we have that matches volunteers in IBM with high schoolers around the world, and you can see in a mentoring relationship. And you can see at the bottom of this chart that we have approximately more than 6,000 IBMers that are engaged in this kind of volunteer and community service, impacting 8,000 students in 35 countries around the world. So this is one example of, you know, this is not about products. This is really about wanting to do something about skills. We have a similar program. This is 10 years old now. If you go to the next chart, and it's called KidSmart. And this is about use of IT in preschools. This is our 10th year anniversary of introducing this KidSmart thing. And as you can see, it's been donated to 60 countries around the world. It benefits 50 million 3 to 7-year-olds. It's been translated into 27 languages. And my point about innovation and partnership, you can see at the bottom here on this chart all the kinds of different organizations that we partner with as we bring out these kinds of things. And you know, we've had independent sources help us with evaluating the effectiveness of things like this, and we've got good results. Now let me talk a little bit, if you go to the next chart and then the next one after, about two very specific sort of initiatives in IBM that are addressing language divide kinds of issues. This is Traducello Ahora, or Translate Now, and this is specifically addressing the language divide between, you know, between English-speaking people and Latinos, this particular program, this is again a grant program from IBM, affecting 460 schools in 6 countries, and it does for you translation of, for example, websites, but also translation of email. So if you have a teacher that wants to speak to a Spanish-speaking parent that doesn't speak English, then they can send an email using this thing, and the WebSphere translation software then translates it into Spanish, and that's the way that a Spanish-speaking parent can see the email from the parent. And then it does it bidirectionally, so the parent can then write back in Spanish, and the teacher gets it back in English. One more example of an initiative is something that we're just about to announce. This has not been announced, so in a way I'm sort of talking about it perhaps for the first time publicly. It's something we call Menon, which, as I understand it in Arabic, is a town square or gathering place. Actually, in Hindi, which I happen to speak, Medan and there's a word called Maidan, which is pretty much, I think, the same word. Anyway, this is actually bringing together in an international dialogue, English and Arabic speaking people in a. It's essentially a social networking kind of site. If you're familiar with things like Facebook and other things, this is sort of a global, internationalized version of that allows you to have dialogue, create groups around interesting topics, and all the translation is done for you under the covers with our speech translation and speech recognition technology. So let me end with being a research person. If you go to the next chart, I'll just end with a few research-related things that IBM is working on. IBM has something we call an innovation jam, which brings together IBMers around the world, but we also bring, our families, our kids, our parents, university folks, in an online conversation, and this goes on for 2 or 3 days. We do this every 2 years or so. This one was the one we did in 2006, and from that, our chairman, Sam Palmisano, said, look, any ideas that come from it, I'm going to fund $100 million to go after these kind of efforts.